Hey guys, sorry I'm out today. We're going to do a little flip lecture to make up for it. First thing you need to do is take out this paper. It's in your binder. And we are down on day 4. So last thing we did was the slave trade, so you need to scroll past all that stuff. And we are on, it says exploration day 3. The economics of exploration. So pause the video while you get that all set up for you. So we've already talked about who the explorers were, why they came over, what they did when they got here, and what the impact on the people in the Americas and Africa were. Today we're going to talk about the economic reasons behind the greed or the money. So the first aspect of this is something called the Columbian Exchange. Take a second, see if you can figure out which explorer this is named after. Pause the video. Okay, you should have said Christopher Columbus. That's why it's Columbian, Christopher Columbus. So what was the Columbian Exchange? And there's your definition: the global exchange of goods, foods, plants, animals, and diseases between the Old and the New World. So between the Old World, which is Europe, and the New World, which is the Americas. We've already talked about a lot of those diseases and things already, but let's take a look and see what they are. So these are mostly food. So most of the stuff that goes back and forth is going to be food or animals. So over here, one of the most important ones is potatoes. That's going to be part of all European poor people's foods, and tobacco, because that's how Virginia and then later America is going to get rich. But also corn. Corn is going to be another one of the staple foods that everyone in Europe is going to eat. And then my favorite, cocoa or chocolate. Over here, the Europeans are sending over things that are really important, like cattle, chicken, coffee, horses, pigs, and maybe perhaps most important, sugar, which we learned about last time is going to be the reason all the slaves are coming. So the term capitalism shows up during this time period. Sometimes it's credited to the English explorers and the way they set that up, because the English are going to set up these colonies purely for money. Capitalism is an economic system based on private ownership and investment of resources, often money, but like maybe you paid for the boat or the tools or something like that. In exchange for that, you get the money. Whatever you make, you get it. So that's going to lead to the creation of joint stock companies, which is how most companies in the U.S. today are formed, and that is the way the original Virginia Company, which starts Virginia, was formed. So it's a joint stock company. It's when you get a lot of investors to contribute money to pay for the company. So instead of one person paying all the money like a patron in the Middle Ages would, or Renaissance, would have, you have a whole bunch of people who pay a little bit of money, and it all adds up to a lot. So the greatest example is Jamestown, which starts the Virginia colony, but that's the easiest and quickest way to start any colony. Now, mercantilism. Mercantilism is the idea that the only reason colonies exist is to make money for whichever country starts them. So Virginia is created purely to make money for England, the colonies, the Spanish colonies like Dominican Republic or Hispaniola is created just to make money for Spain. Quebec is created just to make money for the French. So the definition of mercantilism, it's an economic theory that a nation's power depends on its wealth. So remember, the 3 motivations were gold, which is wealth, right here, God, which isn't here, and glory, or a nation's power, prestige. So the 3 characteristics are, you've got to establish wealth, usually at someone else's expense. trying to get as much gold and silver as possible. Like we saw, the Aztec and Inca had a lot of gold and silver, and so did the Africans. And then you create a colony to exploit or take advantage of whatever they have in that place, with the goal of a favorable balance of trade. So what does that mean? So trade, we know, means selling stuff usually, but sometimes it means an actual trade, like I give you a gun, you give me some slaves, or I give you rum and you give me slaves. So the definition is when a nation sells more than it buys. So if the United States sells things that are worth $300 billion, and we as a people only buy $200 billion worth of things, it means as a group we made $100 billion. That is a favorable balance of trade. If you are making more than you sell as a country. Now, the key to all of these ideas is to set up colonies, which we see the English, French, and Spanish do, but also the Dutch are really fantastic at this. They just do it on a different side of the world, and the reason we don't talk about it as much is because most of those colonies do not stay controlled by the Dutch, but they have incredible trade posts, particularly in Asia. So what is a colony? Here is your definition. It's land owned by another country that exists for the benefit of the home country. So Virginia is created. The only reason it's here is because England thinks it's going to make England more wealthy and more powerful. So a colony has two purposes. One is to provide goods that you can't get in the home country. So when they first arrive in Virginia, wood is a big thing they don't have in England. But all of Virginia is covered in woods. They're also going to have all kinds of animals and fur and things like that. And then eventually we're going to figure out how to grow better tobacco than anyone else has. We also have gold, which they like. The second thing is it gives you a market or a place to sell manufactured goods. So if you remember back when we did the triangle trade last class, Virginia produces tobacco. They send these giant leaves of tobacco to England. England is going to turn them into cigars and snuff or chewing tobacco, and then send it back to Virginia and sell the things to the people who live in Virginia. It's against the law if you live in a colony to make the manufactured good. You have to send the cotton or the sugar or the tobacco to Europe. The people in Europe are going to make it into alcohol to drink, or tobacco to smoke, or clothes from the cotton, and then sell it back to you. Even wood, they would chop down the forest, send the wood back to Europe, and they would make furniture and stuff out of the wood and sell that back to the colonists. So, it's not a long list of things, but it's all very important, and the terms, the vocabulary terms, you definitely need to know. So, what are those terms? Colony, favorable balance of trade, which is the goal of mercantilism, which is caused by competition among nations, in the Columbian Exchange, as well as joint stock companies, capitalism, so if you do not remember some of those words, you can go back. If you didn't pause the video to write down things, now's a good chance to scroll through and do that. If you have any questions about this stuff, write it at the end of your notes, and then you can ask me next class. Otherwise, you need to take out your Guns, Germs, and Steel paper and finish watching that video. And I will see you next class.